I invite all of you to place yourselves on video and to really give yourself the gift of radical, wild, extraordinary presence in this next hour, because you are about to receive an amazing, delightful, playful, exquisite gift of the lovely Kat Grasso. And it is my absolute pleasure and delight to be introducing you to her. Some of you I see as familiar faces, some of you are new to me, and you are in the realm of the School for Sacred Storytelling, and Kat is coming on to be one of our guest teachers. And so for the next hour, she's going to be giving you a taste and a flavor of her delicious approach to poetry. Let me tell you a little bit about Kat. Well, first of all, I have to tell you how I met Kat. I met Kat underneath a great big oak tree telling stories in the canyons of Topanga. I mean, we couldn't have made up a more poetic beginning if we tried. And I think we fell in storied love. And then I started hearing about her through the canyon, whispering through the leaves of the trees and through the mouths of people who I really appreciate and value and respect. And they're like, you know, you're like, you guys have got to know each other. And as soon as we finally met, it was like, you know, stardust and meeting in the cosmos, and, you know, the great big bang happened. And now here we are, something was created. And so it is really my true honor to get to share her with you. And so Kat, along with doing, it was like old school poetry and writing and storytelling exists. I just want you to know it's happening. Hello, Amy Miles. There's an alum, a queen alum of our realms of storytelling. So Kat is a poet, she's a photographer, she's a writer. She's based, as you know, in the mountains of Topanga Canyon. And her focus is on the female experience, on eroticism and sexuality, initiation, body wisdom, and devotion to great nature, all through a poetic lens and practice. She's the co-founder of the Red Room Collective, a community of female identifying humans, not to be confused with trees, that hold monthly gatherings, interactive classes, and experiences in magic, poetry, tantra, and more. She also teaches poetry at the Corazon Local Arts Center, and she is a 15-year veteran of business and branding and has worked with female leaders to craft, work, and develop their unique voice as business owners and as creative spirits to the world. Oh my gosh, what an amazing me of how to express yourself as a human. So I'm going to pass it over to Kat. You're going to be with her for about most of this hour. And then at the very end, for those who want to learn more about how to continue to play and study with Kat, we'll be talking to you about a class that she's going to be offering. So I will hand over the mic.
Oh. Thank you, Maestro. Oh my God, Leo, what an introduction. And indeed, what a meeting. I am so honored to be here with you all. It is just my highest joy. I cannot even tell you. I'm Kat. I know you all have heard that. I am based in Topanga Canyon, and yeah, my deepest path and honestly my prayer this life is poetry. It's one of those kind of like grabs you by the ankles and brings you underneath the tree. I am so excited to be here with you all today. I find that approaching poetry as a forever student and as someone who has a lot to learn from the domain of meaning making and integration and meeting the challenges of our lives and the world at large with a sort of, I would say, magical approach is really the beginning of the end to life as we have known it. So poetry, embodied poetry, and finding your voice has pretty much everything to do with understanding the issues that come with being a human. When we are here in this realm, in this world, we often are taught, especially in a gendered approach, that our voice is somehow wrong, that we are too much, that there is, things that we should not see, things that we should not say. We are essentially told to shut up and, go in accordance with plan, right? Someone else's plan, someone else's perspective on life. The ways that we're essentially domesticated out of our knowing. Poetry was my major tool to regain the understanding of what it means to be a conscious creator, to align myself with my own strength and power, and to really start to both give a fuck about what was going on in the world, and also to utilize poetry as a lens and as a practice to bring about change. Now, I love beautiful poetry. Beautiful poetry is absolutely exquisite. What I'm particularly interested in, when I'm particularly interested in empowering in people, is helping them step into things mattering again. Whether that's a deep, deep connection with the wellspring of who you are, a deep connection with the community around you or the world at large. Being in touch is an exquisite pain. Being in touch with oneself and one's creative genius is the kind of pain that makes you better. It's the kind of pain that makes you up what you are here to do. And poetry is the lens in which you can excavate this deeper meaning and practice your voice. It's one of those things that has been, it's not often talked about. When people think of poetry, they think of, niceties and sharing perspectives and things like this. And I'm really here to, kind of introduce the concept that poetry is really kind of an act of liberatory war. I have to say it that way because that's what I believe to be true with my whole heart. There is an opportunity for us to rise in a way that is in accordance with the meaning and the deep sort of mission that we're here to do. And poetry is one of those ways that we can step inside as co-creative forces on this planet and restore ourselves to creatorship in the way that we were meant to do. I personally fell in love with poetry after I had quite a big soul loss in my life in my 20s. I am genderqueer, but I am a woman. And so finding my way through the slog of the domestication of femininity was something that was pretty atrocious. I must just name it. There are all sorts of ways to get people out of their, their knowing. Women and specifically female identifying people are, experience this at large. Getting in touch with writing and getting in touch with poetry is one of those things where you are in touch with yourself. When you are in your body, when you are in relationship to this inner knowing and this inner being, it's essentially like being in church. There's no place to go. There's no place to hide. It's you and yourself. This sort of intimacy is one that we often dance around on the daily. We get distracted, we get dissociated, we have trauma. But it's actually the only gateway that we really have to step into our truest path. I think that, it's like there is this compelling moment for me when all of a sudden the act of writing poetry on the daily, of putting together meaning, of learning to trust the constellations of a deeper perspective than what I was seeing, began to give way to more journaling practice, a more embodied way of living. My life became completely drenched and saturated with giving a fuck about things I was here to give a fuck about. So poetry absolutely saved my life. And so poetry is really kind of the method to the madness as far as how to step into discovering, once again, your genius. Now, what is genius? It's creativity, it's flow, it's muse. We all have different ways to kind of, approach our relationship to this being, this indwelling force within us. Oftentimes it kind of takes a back seat. If we think about the way that, being either in business or just living our lives, it essentially becomes like, the slave to the master. And we're in this dynamic where, once again, our creativity isn't leading the vision for our life. Through the act of poetry, which is sitting down and crafting and practicing, putting together meaning and perception through actual writing practice, whether collaboratively or solo, you can get back in touch with this current, and this current can guide you once again. So it's one of those kind of soul retrieval, power retrieval moments that continues and continues and continues in life. I think that there's a huge amount of women that I've worked with in the past, and who I tend to work with are women who are stepping back into telling their story. Joy Harjo is one of my absolute favorite poets. I'm sure that some of you all know her. She got kind of grabbed by poetry as like a calling. I'm sure you here have also heard that particular calling. It's one of those things where it's something you can't shake and you don't really necessarily need to make sense of it. You just say yes to it. Here is where, for me, the pavement, the proverbial tires hit the pavement of meaning making through poetry. At least I've come to that in my life, to realize that this stuff called failure, this debris of historical trauma, family trauma, stuff that can kill your spirit, is actually raw material to make things with and to build a bridge. You can use those materials to build a bridge over that which would destroy you. I think many of us here are on a journey of inward initiation, of inward discovery. There's probably not one person here who has not begun that journey in some way, shape, or form. There's a deeper appreciation for the beauty of being human. One starts to realize that this is the very stuff in which we have to work with, and this is the very material that can actually set us free. I think that there's, this idea that poetry is, it's some lofty, sublime thing. And in a way it is, as much as we are, but it's also here and it's anchored in our lived experience. When I read amazing work by women in my community, or I hear an amazing story from Leah, I hear women who are taking the stuff of their life and crafting above and beyond the moment that we find ourselves in and imagining what's to come. Now, that can be in your own life. It can also be for your communities. It can be larger, and it can be as intimate as you with your journal in the morning. There is a moment where we get asked, what are you going to do with this life that you've been given? What is the moment, the invitation that is extended to you when you decide to take a different perspective and perception on your lived experience? Poetry, it is a very demanding tool, I would say. It can be somewhat occult in the fact that it asks you to work skillfully in the domains of meaning, of shared participation, also of getting as intimate as possible to the kernel of humanity that you carry within you. Embodied poetry is one of those things where it will bring you down into your body. We were talking before about the trauma and the life stuff that we find on our journey, bringing forth what we have to work with through poetry. Well, this is really, saving your own life. When we write poetry, we answer our own questions. We propose questions we didn't know we needed to answer. Oftentimes people lose track of the fact of how connected we are. And there's, very, very cool things that occur within, poetry salons, particularly collaboratively, right? Which is a lot of people will be singing the same song. They'll be utilizing the same language in a slightly different way, or the entire song will actually be a shared symphony. Now, this connectivity is one of those things where poetry is like the unifying force. So I'm a big believer in the fact that we are, like, in a way, like mortal musicians who are crafting our own realities. And so through this tool, we can enter in these spaces together and kind of take back our own power of meaning and of play. I think, it's one of those things where we have so many shoulds in our life. We have so much dogmatic materialism kind of knocking at our door, asking us to participate in things that give us cognitive dissonance, right? It's like there is this cognitive dissonance between what we're seeing at large in the world and what we feel in our hearts. Now, this kind of separation and schism is something we experience, in our family of origin. It's something we experience, again and again. Poetry got me straight to the truth. There's really no arguing with it when you know something in your bones and you're in touch with your body. When you're in touch with your body, you're in touch with your power. This is the portal and the gateway for our incarnation. And when we're in touch with the art of poetry, it becomes a modality, almost like a reflection, where we can work within our perceptions and understand what's going on. There is an enchantment that returns to our life when we utilized the power of poetry and the power of our body to start to move with greater strength and start to move with greater meaning. it is literally like kind of connecting the dots. I like to think of us in a way as like, you know, these divine beings with these gorgeous hands, these, you know, wonderful perspectives, these great heads on our shoulders. And we're a bit in an underworld journey. You know, our head flew off, our hands are over here, you know, our voices over there co-opted by, you know, X, Y, or Z. Getting ourselves back into our own power is really where the embodiment of poetry comes into play. Now, you'll notice I played with the word strength and power in relationship to poetry and how poetry is a tool to stepping back into that. Well, that's exactly what we have within us, especially when we're in deeper surrender to the deeper power within. Um, Poetry is the gateway to remembering how to trust that force, how to work skillfully and co-creatively with it. Entering the space of creativity through poetry is almost like unlocking a gate, right? Unlocking the key to something more. I have seen countless people transform their life and, you know, tell their stories in ways that completely set them free. And many people actually hated poetry, which I found particularly funny. Like I had to like kind of like I'm like, no, you're really gonna bend, like, you know. And then, you know, anyway, long story short, I had friends who completely transformed their relationship to poetry, realizing that it was something that in a way had been associated, right, as something that wasn't going to be, it was too frou-frou, too, you know, X, Y, or Z. Um, Poetry is a tool. Poetry is an exceptional force for liberation on this planet. And it's one that we all possess. Voices. Now, similar to the way that every painter has their own palette and their own brush on how to paint their paintings, writers and poets have their own voice in which to craft, in which to construct, in which to write. Now, of course, like there's always, you know, the beginning of, you know, wanting to, you know, kind of work with like a favorite poet of yours, for example, you know, Mary Oliver, natural poems, nature poems, things like this. But I actually think that the real work is to get extremely close to the way you perceive and the way you see and write from that space. Sharing is uncomfortable. There's something very like naked making about sharing your perception about something, what it will reveal about you, what you truly care about, these deeper intimacy moments. These are places in which to work through poetry, in which to continue to, through poetry and through writing, refine and define. There are so many things that kind of stand in the way of us showing up as a fully here and fully human. A lot of insecurities, right? Like maybe our insecurities get the better of us. We're going to be hopping into a bit of a writing exercise at the end of this, because that's what this is really all about, is getting writing. But the major thing is the more that you write, the more that you simply get to the business of getting down to the poetry, everything starts to flow. The pen starts to take the lead. You drop into, you have 15 minutes to go. So getting you out of your head is really like one of my key desires, because poetry is really about a fully lived experience. And so often we experience reality from our head. We make sense of things from our head. We may, you know, do all these things. We live life above the neck. Embodied poetry and getting back in touch with the inner power is really about taking a different approach. This isn't to make academy ready poetry. This is about discovering you. This is about getting intimate with you. This is about discovering a language that lives on your tongue and in your body in the way that only you can write. Everyone has a voice. It's so unique and so wonderful. And it's one of those things where poetry is a tool for excavation. It's also one of those things where it actually kind of moves into different domains of your experience as well. Yeah, Jana, exactly. Yeah, being in your head, exactly. Yeah, air sign, totally. I'm a Capricorn myself. I'm a very stubborn goat, so don't worry. I will get you into ground in a good way. Yeah, it's absolutely true, and there's so much beauty there as well. When we truly eat of our own creativity, eating of one's own tree, this is something that I experience deeply, deeply as a creator. I know that when Lee was introducing me, she was sharing that I was working in business and branding. we've in a way outsourced our experience of life and like our culture to organizations and to businesses to define our reality for us. Now, I think poetry is an occult tool in the fact that it helps you bring your own voice to the arena. When you become the most important voice in your house, you live in your own land. I'm really, really keen on, you know, kind of feminist thought in relationship to taking back the interior. We don't realize how much ourselves we've given away, whether to, you know, kind of other people's perspectives, different people's ways of, you know, thought leadership, etc. There's nothing wrong with that, and there are plenty of excellent teachers on this planet. But between, you know, no one is going to be able to fill that master teacher place except you. That's what it comes down to. And when the, you know, tires hit the pavement in your life, it literally is going to be driving from a place of self-knowledge, right? So poetry, the method, the means, and the madness. I would love to propose a question to you all, because now I've been talking for some time, 2:22, you guys had me talking. I want to hear from you all. I would love to hear, what do you think of when you think of poetry? What does poetry mean to you? I think we can have like a hand raising. Let's see if people can raise their hands. The Janet Lynn show.
Oh, Janet Lynn show. I love
Janet.
poetry. I mean, I just feel like that is where my truest self comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't share my poetry too much because it's so vulnerable, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
It's like you're, you know,
Yeah.
like you said, naked, you know, your nakedness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. There's this like this deeper thing too, Janet, with like me. It's like, you know, like there are some places I didn't want to look at in my own life, and I found that poetry was like the soft gaze that I needed. You know, it's like there is a nakedness to poetry. There's also something incredibly soft to it.
Words that just jumped into my mind were, she laid naked in the truth.
Oh my God. Yes, please.
That sounds delicious, right?
Okay, that sounds beyond delicious. I want to be in that church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good song, Take Me to Church.
Oh my God, I love that song.
Huh?
Yes. Yes, Janet. Yes. Excellent. Petra.
Hi. It's actually Petra, but don't worry.
Petra. Pardon.
Nope.
Mhm.
I actually, that you mentioned Joy Harjo, that was like such a connect. I was like, am I going to be here today? I don't know. And this thing popped up, and then you said that, and I was like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. It's like one of those signpost moments where you're like, oh, okay. Because she is someone who, in a very dark time, I watched her interview with Oprah, and she talked about how poets are seers. And it's very much something of how I can write things that I would not be brave enough to say, that I would not be brave enough to see any other way, that you can like peer into corners of yourself or places or spaces inside of you that without the art that you wouldn't be able to just do that. It's not like, because I can tell the truth in therapy, but it's very different from when you write it in a poem. I don't know how to express that any differently, but I just thought of that quote of her calling poets seers and how much that just resonates for me, and how powerful that has been and transformative in my journey is learning how to be a person.
Learning how to be a person. I love that so much. Poetry is the power of prophecy, right? And that's Petra. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share it, Varda?
Poetry was always important to me, starting when I was about 15. And it was a true expression and so deep. Sometimes it would come all at once, sometimes in bits. And I grew up in the 60s where poetry was popular. And in
Yeah.
college, they had like 4 or 5 different poetry classes one can take. Oh, I'm on low power mode. And all my life, I've used poetry to understand myself and express myself and see the world. But in the last, for a long time, I haven't written very much. And I feel it, and it always seemed like it was such an integral part of me that I would always have it, and to lose it late in life for like over a decade. Though occasionally I would write, but it wouldn't be the same thing. And now it's coming back, and I'm so happy. It's an old friend, it's a cousin, it's a relative that I need to see and be close to again.
Oh, how beautiful, Varda. It literally was like waiting. It was like waiting for you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. That's incredible. It's so true. In this modern world, poetry is really not seen as, in fact, it's poo-pooed. You know, it's seen as something that's, I don't know, it's compartmentalized into something that isn't super celebrated. It's a very strange way of seeing it, in my opinion. Like, it makes absolutely no sense to me. I think people, you know, the sense of creativity and moving back into, you know, creating for the sake of creativity, for the sake of play. I think that's one of those things where I saw a couple of things in the chat which just completely sparked me. This is incredible, is a fully lived experience. So often in life, we are, you know, kind of going with the flow. We're not paying attention to more around us. Our perception is somewhat suffers, right? Just going through the modern life. Poetry is, you know, one of those rehabilitative forces that allows you to remember enchantment once again as well. I love that. Enjoy a lifelong lived. That is it, to be fully human. That's exactly what it is. Oh my God, I love this so much. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and in a way, you know, it's like a fear of the unconscious. We could go on and on, right? It's like those, you know, kind of dedicated to the status quo kind of mentality. It's a fear of change, you know, it's like ultimately it comes down to fear. But there's this this renaissance that I feel in myself. I think like in my journey of coming back to my practice, Varda, was really a screaming knock on my door. It was, you know, hey, you've strayed a bit from your path, have you? Boom, boom, boom. And so yeah, very, very fun in its way, right? But I think that there is a moment when we get to drop back in with ourselves, and it's a gift that we give. It is a gift that we give to ourselves to set a container for 5 or 10 minutes in the morning. It is a gift to ourselves to write collaboratively. It is a gift to ourselves to believe in our own voice enough to do the work to pay attention. It's not these, you know, these big kind of moments, these big things that occur in the external world. Our worlds are microcosms. To truly transform and to change the way that we relate to our voice and to get extraordinarily intimate with ourselves is really the work of a lifetime. It's one of those moments where no one else is going to do this for you. It's really an invitation for yourself to say yes to yourself, and that's really what it comes down to. You know, it's that yes. When people get nervous as far as like writing poetry, and some of like the, I suppose, like Achilles heel, a lot of people think poetry has to be written a specific way, when in fact there is no right or wrong way to write poetry. Poetry is an invitation to share, Poetry is an invitation to get creative. It can be prose poem, it can be haikus, it can be rolling poetry that simply rolls off your tongue. It can rhyme, it cannot. There are as many styles in which to pour your creativity to as one can imagine. One of the ways that I used to kind of start to cue off my creative muse is actually to grab words and actually to grab lines. So it's kind of like grabbing like a red thread, which is why I actually have this tattoo. Says beloved. When you actually grab a theme or you grab a note, it's similar to how musicians grab a riff, right? Like it's one of those ways that you reach within as without, and you start to craft based on like a deeper symphony there. One of the ways that I like to literally drop into embodiment and practice the art of listening, which is embodiment, right? Seeing, hearing, being, tasting, embodying, is actually to write these down. So that's one invitation I would love to extend to everyone here. Write down the notes and crumbs, whether on your phone or in your notebook. These are the ways you can start to craft poetry. It's one of those moments where your greater self literally is always in communion with you. And that's something that we drop into through the gateway of our body, really, is like, how we kind of get through the curtain and we re-enter that communion and we re-enter that conversation with self. The actual connection is strengthened the more you look, the more you to that moment where you allow things to come through. This is just one of those, magnificent places where you can practice the art of embodiment by simply listening, by simply saying yes, and by simply writing down different things that come to you during the day. Now, I would love to propose to you all to do a writing prompt exercise. I would love to get us writing. So my ask from y'all is to drop in together for 10 minutes and to write a free-form poem based on this prompt. So this poem, it could be in any style. If there's a particular style you enjoy, please feel free to go ahead and rock and roll. It can be a simple couple of lines. It is really at your desire. The free-form poem prompt is, where will I find my answer? I'm going to type that in the chat box as well. And I'm going to put us on the clock, 10 minutes. And I'll give us 1 minute before we're ready to join back in together. Happy writing, poets. We have about 1 minute left in our writing. All right, beautifuls. So just slowly tying up our poems. Ba-doop, ba-doop. Any finishing touches in the next 20 or so seconds. And coming back together. Now, there's been some gorgeous shares in the chat. I would specifically love to ask if there are a few courageous and bold souls who would like to share with all of us. And we can unmute them, or they can unmute themselves and share. I see a hand from Tamara.
All right, this is fun. I love writing with prompts.
Me too.
All right, here it goes. The answer lies beneath the stone wall in the damp soil with the worms and mycelium. Each moss-covered rock must be set aside. The smell of earth and old tears waft in the air. Digging down through the bottom layer, fingernails black and ragged, hope held gently as a feather in an eggshell. And then the glint of mica, a mirror reflecting forgotten truth. The answer is in the question and in the heart, whispering beneath the stone wall.
In the heart, whispering beneath the stone wall. Ah! Thank you.
Thank you.
Carmi.
Where will I find my answer? Winds are sleek today. Trump's running again. A river otter's out to play. While sun and fog vie with one another, seeking space. The afternoon turns dark. How will we deal with earthquake? How bend toward justice? How will I find presence here now?
I love how it ends on another question. How will I find? Can you read that last line again, Carmen?
How will I find presence here now?
No. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And I'm going to invite one more person to share. Just there. Okay, wonderful. Melissa, do I see your hand up, honey? Yeah. Okay.
When I complete a phase of life, it becomes a page of poetry in the book of the universe, positioned there on one of its infinite pages. Speaking to those who need it, those volumes remind me that on any of my adventures, I can use that book as my sacred oracle too. Closing my eyes, filling my being with a fun drenched in love, and opening it at any place, allowing my eyes to look and embrace whatever I may see as a sacred symbol to guide me with its gentle, nourishing humor. That answer, speaking volumes into my infinite beingness and blessing the moment while also taking me on a cosmic breeze to the next step, the next amazing adventure, that I too may write with my life another and another poem from the mystery of existence. Cheers.
Ah, my God, I love that, Melissa. Thank you. Cheers indeed. Raise my imaginary chalice to that. Oh my gosh, beautiful. Astonishing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for those shares. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Absolutely astonishing. I love how we're all seemingly very heretical here. I'm really loving that. I feel very much in good company. I think that's just freaking excellent. What an absolute pleasure to joining you here together. This is just fabulous. I like to think of like I'm a witch as well in the Book of Shadows, like in relationship to our lived experience and relationship to us collaboratively, you know, in this beautiful embodiment. And I love how there was like a nod to all of those things, like in these poems. It's yeah, beautiful kinship here. Absolutely beautiful. Hearing your all's words and hearing your poems. Thank you for those beautiful shares, Tamara, Carmi, and Melissa. Thank you for blessing us with that work. And for those who added theirs in the chat, I just want to say thank you. My life is richer for the voices in my life. Hearing your all's just, yeah, bowls me over constantly. The work of poetry softens my heart. It opens my mind and it brings me back home to myself. And it's a practice and a prayer and a path that I want to keep it on forever. Embodiment is a specific lens. I think it's also very practically, how do we anchor in our energetics into this form in order to bring forth our voice once again and again to where it matters the most in our own life and in our communities. I'm just so grateful that you all joined for this class. Thank you so much for joining me. It has been a pleasure to be here. And I would love to, I think, Leah, jump into sharing a bit about the class to come as well.
I can do a little bit of talking. I think you'll talk more about it, but what I want to do is I'm going to put a link to Kat's class and just tell you, you guys are sort of in a monumental, historic moment. And I'm really excited to share this with you because for the past, I don't know, like 5 years, I've been, as many of you know, I've been teaching and developing this modality of sacred storytelling. And I always called it the School for Sacred Storytelling. I didn't call it Leah Lamb's Technique for Story. You know, I called it this big space because I always had this vision that we together are holding and fostering this grand place where language and connection and story and the beauty of life can continue to have a place to live among us, even through these wild times, especially through these wild times, called forth from these wild times. And it's finally this beautiful moment where I'm beginning to walk away as being the only teacher, which makes more space for really wonderful, extraordinary people to come in and broaden what we have to offer as a school. And Kat is one of our very first teachers to walk in. And so we've never had a 4-week poetry class. And so it's just really exciting to see so many old faces and for you to be part of this kind of monumental moment. And Kat's class is amazing. And I'm just going to tell you a couple of things, a couple of details about it, and then she's really going to tell you the goods of it. But I'll tell you some of the small details, which is just the practicality of it, which is that she's offering it at a very generous price of $197. And for anyone who registers before the 19th, you get an early bird special of $111. So she's going for her sacred. And isn't that the day that you're born on, Kat? Is that right? Are you born on the 1st?
It is January 1st.
January 1st. All right. I'm born on 1/11. You're born on January 1st anyway. So between the two of us, that number is really happening. And if you register today, then I'm going to give you a bonus of another class, which is 2 hours. And it comes out of our master teacher library, which is Nima Lightseed's class on disarming the body language. And it's another amazing class. So you don't have to wait until December, 3rd, I think is when your class starts, or November 3rd. Anyway, she'll tell you that you can just get going and continue your poetry practice. So anyway, I put the link into the chat box. I'll put it in right here so you have it. That bonus will be sent to you tomorrow, just so you know, on Nima's class. And Kat, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what people will be experiencing? Because I know it's going to be a pretty experiential class.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited. I came to somatics kind of because I had to. You know, I definitely kind of rode my body into a not so good place in my 20s. You know, for the majority of my life after that, it's been a return to the chapel of my being. Getting to my body was the singular most important thing that changed everything for me. Now it changed my relationships. It completely upended my life. I could see, I could hear, I could perceive. Right, like once again, I was back in my space. But I became just absolutely. I just fell madly in love with the mysteries of my body. I think that, you know, divine geometry of our earthly form in relationship to the cosmos is just the realest thing that I can possibly imagine. Getting in touch with this intelligence has been the greater work of my life for the past several years, because I fell in love. I fell madly in love. Everything I had imagined about my human incarnation and poetry and creativity, let alone divinity, went right out the window. And my work completely transformed. And so during this this series of classes that I'm just absolutely delighted to be offering, we are going to go down and we are going to discover our body through a series of guided meditations and writing practices. We are going to get deep inside of our vessels, yoke ourselves to the wisdom, and bring forth some works. I cannot wait. I am just so deeply, deeply excited. During these salons, we will write collaboratively. We will also be writing in like solo containers, but what I would like to do is actually break people into different rooms, like different breakout rooms. So we will be writing in small groups and also large groups. Basically, the major jewel of this particular offering is your relationship to your body will be transformed. Writing from the place of open eyes, open eye, and full embodiment is to bring forth works of peace, to bring forth works that are oracular in nature. As a priestess and as someone who is just absolutely like devotee of great nature, dropping into this space has untold beauty. So practical, I will be giving quite a few tips and tricks on how to get in touch and stay in touch with the muse. We will be doing embodiment focus exercises together and writing our fucking hearts out. So all the things that I love, all in, you know, this beautiful, beautiful 4 weeks. I cannot wait. It is my highest joy and my highest journey. It's immense, the works that come out of these longer, you know, experiences together because of the anchoring that we do within our own body mind. I'm just absolutely delighted to be here and to be offering. This is so exciting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the most evolved form of protest is to be healthy. Amen, Deborah. To be connected, to see, to perceive, to have all of our eyes and ears open. We are nature's intelligence. That's what it's about. Yeah. Beautiful. Bye, Dee. So I'd just like to say thank you all for coming today. I'm honored that you all are here. And Leah, thank you so much for having me. What a pleasure and an honor and a privilege it is to be here. I'm just so excited, you know, to continue to work magic and containers with amazing people. That's really what my life, like what my highest joy is and is all about. Specifically in relationship to poetry and bringing forth voice. I think that we have a lot of beautiful beautiful work to do here in our lives and on this planet. And poetry is one of those delightful currents that energizes and excavates and will really empower us to do what we're here to do. And I look forward to going on that journey with you together.
Thank you,
you.
Kat.
My
I'm glad to see
pleasure.
so many people who just continue to weave the threads of working with words and playing with words. And maybe we can all, I'm sure if everyone has questions that you can stay on, but why don't we just give Kat a big round of gratitude and thank you and poetry and song. Is inspired, send her away. And then we'll stay a little extra for if anyone has questions. So
yes,
thank you.
Yeah, we begin November 30th. Yeah.
Thank you. You have a question that you have? Is that just a hello?
There was something going on in the chat that I just was wondering if you all could clarify.
Yes.
There were 2 early codes given, and then there was something about if you sign up today, register. Leah said those who register for CAT class today, it will be given as a gift. For those who don't, it can be accessed in our.
I can just explain. I can explain it all. Okay. So I don't know. Someone else put a different promo code. I don't know about that promo code. I know about the one that I offered. So,
I don't think I did a promo code.
Yeah. So it's Early Wolf is what I'm pretty sure. I just emailed our behind the scenes team just to see, you know. But anyway, we are going to send out a replay email and that promo code will be there. As a bonus, what we were offering is that we have a master teacher library. As you know, we've been teaching for a long time and we bring in guest teachers that have been teaching our classes for over 5 years, and they teach these amazing 2-hour classes. And so as a bonus for those who registered today, I was going to throw in one of those master classes by Nima Lightseed. So it's another poetry class. That one would be 2 hours, very, very experiential. And then for those who don't actually, who aren't ready to register right now, but like want our master teacher library, you can actually get that. It's at $33 a month and we keep adding to it. It's a living library. So it's kind of an amazing thing. And you get to come participate live in all of our future, it's actually going to be podcast interviews and engage in live conversations that way. So does that make sense? There we go.
Okay, so it's Early Wolf, not early poetry.
That's what I read.
Okay. One doesn't work, I'll try the other.
Right, there you go. I mean, I don't know where that other one came in. It would be logical on the patterning of how we've done our promo codes before, but that was the word that came to me.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of y'all's week.
That was fun.
I'm so glad. Oh my God, what epic work. I want it all. I always want it to read later, you know. It's like,
Can I read you really quick what I wrote?
Yes, please, Jim. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a couple lines of, it wasn't that one, it was the first one. She laid naked with her truth. Take me to church, the altar, the ritual, the vow. See me, I am brave. Close your eyes and feel me. Feel my power. Feel me run through your veins. The blood, the breath, the bones. Dig me up and honor me. I am not dead. I live in your head.
Oh my God, I love that much. Yes. That's like an erotic embodied poetry. It's like, I am the bones. I am that. I love that so much.
Thank you for your time.
Janet, thank you for coming. Thank you for blessing us with your fucking truth bomb and like Hosier. Yes, please.